Welcome to the Unveiled Epic Echoes channel. Today, we're diving deep into an unexplored historical mystery. The story begins with a low, comforting hum like distant machinery heard through bedrock. The sound that once lulled a hidden city to sleep beneath the American plains during the long, anxious decades of the Cold War. A city never marked on maps, never spoken of above a whisper, built not for living exactly, but for enduring, for waiting out the unthinkable, and our guide into this buried world is Thomas Reed, a civil engineer who liked order, quiet mornings, and the reassuring logic of blueprints, a man who believed that if you understood how something was built, you could understand why it existed. And in 1961, he was recruited under layers of secrecy to work on a federal infrastructure project described only as a continuity facility, a phrase so bland it could hide anything. And when he was flown to the Midwest and driven past cornfields rippling like an inland sea, he noticed the sky seemed wider there, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. And then the road ended at an unremarkable concrete building where armed guards checked papers and ushered him down an elevator that did not stop until daylight felt like a memory, opening into a cavern lit with warm yellow bulbs, revealing streets carved from limestone, complete with sidewalks, signs, even a modest town square painted with a sky blue ceiling, an underground city designed to house thousands of government workers, scientists, families, all meant to preserve American civilization if the surface burned. And Thomas felt awe-threaded with unease, because the place felt older than its concrete suggested, as though the rock remembered other hands, other eras, and his unease deepened when he discovered markings etched into the stone behind a false wall, spirals and grids echoing symbols he had once seen in a college art history book. Diagrams from ancient Anatolian underground cities where entire populations hid from invaders. Cities like with ventilation shafts and rolling stone doors. And he wondered who had chosen this location and why. Because the official story said the site was selected for geological stability. But the symbols suggested a deeper lineage, as if the Cold War planners had unknowingly followed paths laid down thousands of years earlier by people who also feared annihilation. And as months passed, Thomas helped design water systems, air filtration, and living quarters, all while the city slowly populated with people sworn to secrecy, their lives reduced to code names and routines. Children attended underground schools decorated with murals of forests and skis. Adults worked simulated office hours, and the city learned how to pretend it was not waiting for the end. Yet at night, Thomas walked the maintenance tunnels where the hum was loudest and felt the past pressing close, until one evening he met Carter, a linguist assigned to archival continuity, a role that sounded dusty but carried weight, because her job was to decide which stories survived. And she told him in a calm voice that the underground city was not merely a shelter but an echo chamber, built where ancient peoples believed time folded inward, places where memory lingered in stone. And she had found documents sealed within the bedrock, not modern at all, but fragments preserved in mineral pockets, texts describing cycles of collapse and renewal, written by a civilization older than recorded history, one that believed humanity periodically retreated underground to reset itself. And that survival required not just bodies, but stories. Thomas listened as if listening itself was his true task. And tension grew as the Cuban Missile Crisis loomed above. Alarms tested daily, drills practiced until they felt real. And one night the city was sealed for longer than a drill, doors closed, radio silence stretched. And people slept restlessly beneath the painted sky while Thomas discovered that the ancient symbols aligned with the city's layout, that the ventilation shafts mirrored star maps, that the town square sat precisely where an ancient chamber would have been, a place of gathering and decision. And then the climax arrived not as fire but as choice, when word finally came that the crisis had passed and the city could reopen, Yet the elders of the facility debated whether to tell the world what had been built. What had been found, because the documents translated suggested the cycle was incomplete, that emerging too soon risked repeating mistakes, and Thomas, practical and gentle, argued that hiding forever would turn preservation into burial, that the city's purpose was to remind humanity of its fragility, not escape it. And in the end, the underground city was officially decommissioned, its existence buried under classifications and time. Its people returned to sunlight carrying secrets they could never share. Thomas married, lived a quiet life, and never spoke of the hum except in dreams. And decades later, a young historian hiking across those same plains would stumble upon a sealed door exposed by erosion, feel a vibration beneath her boots, and sense that history was breathing below, waiting not to warn or threaten, but to reassure that even in the darkest chapters, humanity built places of care, continuity, and hope. And as the hum fades and sleep settles in, the underground city remains patient and calm, a reminder that the past is never gone, only resting, ready to be remembered when the world is quiet enough to listen. This mysterious journey ends here, but stay tuned for more untold stories in our next video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Thank you, and see you again.